Good morning from Trend Signal for our review of the data and events this week, beginning the 9th of December. A week last week where we saw quite a bit of volatility, finishing on the week with some very positive news from the Bureau of Labor Statistics in the US. Non-farm payroll came in quite a bit stronger than expected at 203,000 versus 180,000 expected. The unemployment rate ticked down as well, a couple of notches from 7.2 to 7%. And this followed on hot on the heels from the ADP data on Wednesday, which really came in unusually strong as well, actually 215,000 versus 172 expected. But they also revised up the previous October reading from 130 to 184. So data very positive. Equities had a nice strong up move. Up until then, the markets were under a little bit of pressure, but I think this has certainly spiked any thoughts of a short-term down move on these equities. Certainly indices now looking quite positive. The S&P and the Dow both breaking up again, and even the FTSE here in the UK showing signs of bottoming, but not signaling a long trade just yet. So let's have a look at the news we're expecting this week. If we look at Forex Factory, we've already had a little bit of data out. The CPI data in China was moderately positive. Markets were on a reasonably firm footing earlier on, but equities are slipping at the moment. I think following Friday night's or Friday's move in equities, it was a sharp move higher in both the DAX, S&P, Dow, and indeed our FTSE. And I think there's a little bit of backing and filling really just taking place now. So I would expect perhaps a slightly more sort of consolidating picture over the next couple of days. And indeed, obviously, most of the discussion still refers back to the tapering of this quantitative easing. Will they, won't they? This is the reference to the Federal Reserve or the FOMC. And it's interesting, the comments are mixed in the press. Some commentators believe that it's a bit of a shoo-in that they will start tapering, and others not sure. So if we look at headline in the FT, stocks jump after robust US jobs data. We see some comments here. We believe that the Fed is likely to start tapering at the next meeting on the 17th and 18th of December. That's next Wednesday. We'll hear about that. And then we see another headline here, why the Fed may still hesitate to pull the trigger. So wasn't blockbuster data last Friday that was would make it a shoo-in, but I think it is likely that they will start the tapering next week. So the focus of this week is really on a sort of a waiting or holding pattern ahead of next week's FOMC meeting, which is a 2-day meeting starting on next Tuesday, finishing on next Wednesday. So we will find out next Wednesday at 7 o'clock as to what the Federal Reserve are going to be doing. I think the markets have absorbed most of this. I think they're comfortable with the notion of QE tapering or the slowing down of this quantitative easing. I'm not sure how emerging markets will react, but certainly emerging markets, certainly equity markets have done pretty well. I note that the Indian Sensex made a new all-time high again this morning. So quite an extraordinary move there, really, bearing in mind the problems that beset that country for the time being. Okay, so the data for the rest of the week, really, we've got interest rate decisions, and we've also got members of central banks speaking. In light of what's happening in the US with this tapering, and will they, won't they, perhaps the comments from Mr. Bullard this evening, that's Monday at 6 o'clock, speaking at, well, if you want to actually see the detail here, you can see at the Chartered Financial Analyst Society in St. Louis. Doesn't matter where he's speaking, the fact of the matter is it'd be interesting to note any comments that suggest they've made a decision or will be making a decision to do with tapering this quantitative easing. But really, the calendar, I should say, the data calendar and events calendar this week is a lot lighter than last week. We've got a couple of interest rate decisions. Firstly, the New Zealand one on Wednesday, where things are sort of hotting up a little bit in New Zealand. And I think that whilst we don't think they'll raise rates just at the moment, we are looking for signs that they may look to do that, perhaps for a hint about an early rate hike in early 2014. We then jump to Thursday, And Thursday we've got Mr. Draghi speaking, the President of the ECB. That's quite an important one. At 8 o'clock in the morning on Thursday, this has the ability to move the markets. He's speaking at the European Central Bank policy at the European Parliament, about European Central Bank policy, I should say, at the European Parliament in Strasbourg. That does have the ability to move markets. Please make sure you make a note of that. Then we have core retail sales, or retail sales in the US, quite an important number there. We're looking for a number of plus 0.2%. The core number will be the same as the previous month if it does come out at that. We exclude the more volatile components. The food is removed from that, just to make, because can be particularly volatile and seasonal. Then we have the weekly unemployment claims at 1:30 as well. In light of what's happening, obviously, in the non-farm payroll data, this is not so important, but the numbers remain consistently good, and it looks like we're making we've got a new sort of floor in the unemployment or employment rate as the economy in the US starts to pick up further. And then we finish the week with an inflation number in the US on Friday at 1:30. PPI, that's expected to come out unchanged following a minus 0.2% figure in November. Inflation is pretty much well in check in the US, and I don't see that causing any problems. So very much a sort of holding week, perhaps. The US dollar took quite a leg down actually against the euro, something the Eurozone I'm sure will not be celebrating too much, as it struggles with low inflation and low growth. I think they'll be quite happy to try and stimulate things. Their action last month, we'll see what effect that's had on the markets at some stage. But the US dollar firm against the yen taking another leg higher. I should say the number of yen to the dollar taking another leg higher over 103. That's propelled the Nikkei higher this morning, obviously on the back of the benefit to the exporters. So really, everything steady as she goes, really. Let's see how the week pans out. We'll reconvene again on Thursday at 8 o'clock. Thanks very much for listening.
If you would like more information about trading the right way, Trend Signal is giving you the opportunity to see and hear about its services live at a free online seminar. Take a look at the Trend Signal website for the latest events and to book your free place.